So Jean, and if you could answer here, that would be great. I know you're here. Okay. Jamie.
Here.
Thank you. Misty.
Here.
Thank you. Sophie.
I'm here.
Thank you. John.
Yeah.
John. Can you say here? So Sunita needs to hear it.
Sorry, I was muting. I said here twice.
Oh. I
Didn't realize I was
hear you.
muted.
Hi, John. Beverly.
Here.
Thank you. Alexis.
Here.
Thank you. Susan.
Here.
Thank you. And we're good to go. So Carley will be coming and Sunita is coming from a prior meeting. So I want to welcome everybody. I want to just, what a beautiful day it's been with the sun and the warmth and breezes and clouds. It's really just been gorgeous. I want to remind you all that our session will be recorded. To keep things running smoothly so we don't talk over each other, to please raise your hand. Sometimes I don't always see the hands, but Carley or Franziska will see them. I'm not the host of the meeting. So just be patient if I don't see you raising your hand. And that's what we're going to talk about. And again, chat will be turned off for this meeting. Okie doke. So let's welcome our visitors. I see Paul as a visitor. Where'd you go? Welcome, Paul. How would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us one little thing about you?
Sure, my name is Paul Zulak. I'm an occupational therapist, qualified mental health professional, active in Oregon Occupational Therapy Association, and worked at St. Vincent for 16 years until my job was eliminated last year. I guess that's a good snapshot. Anyway,
Welcome. Glad you're here. And now we're going to review the March minutes. Are there any changes that people see that need to be made? Oh, Sunita, you did an awesome job. So now we're going to take a vote to approve the minutes as they are so stated. So everybody in favor of the minutes, either raise your hand or say A or yay. Thank you.
But
Okay,
I can't take credit for March meeting. I didn't do it.
Oh, you
Somebody else
didn't
had
do
done
it?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Last one I didn't do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Laura did them. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sunita. And Sunita, I think I got everybody through roll call.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. So I would like to take this wonderful opportunity to introduce you to two of the city council members that are running for the vacant city council meeting vacancies. And I want to review what the guidelines are for having them as guests with us. We as board members may not endorse any candidate or ballot measure in the meeting. Okay, so we are not a political platform. A candidate may drop by our board meeting when we offer equal time and presence for someone else, which we have with our two visitors for today. And a candidate may not put website or any political information into a chat, but they can put their email. But since our chat is not available today, you'll have to find other ways to share your email. So any questions about that, our guidelines? Oh, fabulous. Let's get started. So Jerome Sibayan, there you are. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Good.
You know that you have about 10 minutes It's time to speak and time to answer questions, and we will be timing you. So however you would like that to run is totally in your hands, but welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for some time to speak with you this afternoon. My name is Jerome Sibayan, and I am a candidate for Beaverton City Council. And I want to first talk about my parents. I know that sounds a little odd, but I want to talk about my parents and their experience in aging and my experience of my interaction with them aging. And then maybe throw out some questions that I'm sure many of you have asked as well about what it means to be old and getting old in the United States. So my parents immigrated from the Philippines in 1970, and we settled and grew up in Salem, Oregon. My mom was a registered nurse at Salem Hospital. My dad was an electrician, a communications electrician for state forestry. And they retired about the late 80s at the first opportunity they had. And so they retired and they settled in Woodburn. And Woodburn Estates is a community that surrounds a golf course. So their vision of retirement was settling down in a house and in a single dwelling house and playing golf for the rest of their lives. And I am certain they did not expect to live as long as they have. They're in their early 90s now. So about 10 years ago, they reached a decision point that I think everybody reaches at some point who lives that long, whether or not to stay in their house and continue living independently, or moving into a community with a social network and support services as well. And they made the decision to stay in their house. And part of that decision was, you are probably aware of Asian or Filipino cultural approaches to the elders. And elders in the Philippines tend to be put on a pedestal with almost a godlike reverence. And so their concept of getting old was that as they got older, the kids would take care of them. And so my sister and I are the primary caregivers now, and we make sure they get to their medical appointments and they get to get groceries, bring them lunch and have some social interaction with the family. But as we've learned over the years, over the last 10 years, is independent living is truly independent. It's very isolated, and it was that way before COVID, and COVID has just exacerbated that. And so they stopped golfing long ago. Their failing health is a primary cause of that. But so this idea of getting old in America and is generates lots of questions for me. And I will tell you, I am 55. My parents passed along the fountain of youth gene to me, so I'm very fortunate in that sense. But I'm at that stage in my life where, oddly, the next big life event for me is starting Social Security. Yeah, and it's a little daunting. So I'm starting to have these questions arise in my mind about what it means to be old and getting old in America. I don't have kids, I don't have a family, so I don't have this option of kids shepherding me around to medical appointments and all that. So I still have to figure this out. But I guess the questions I have and the questions you obviously talk about all the time are, how do we define retirement and the role of elders in our society? If we should redefine it, how should we redefine it? And how do we create an environment, short of a massive cultural change, where the elders in our society can continue to contribute to society, even though they're not a part of the working class, if you will. So those are my thoughts on the aging process, and so that I'll leave it at that. I'll just quickly introduce kind of my background. I'm a retired Army officer. I served in the Army for 28 years, and around the world and throughout the United States. I was in the Corps of Engineers, and I'm a licensed professional engineer. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering, and I was once a public works director. And so I understand that infrastructure in all its intricacies really represents what we believe about ourselves and how we want to live. I'm an educator. I have a master's and a doctorate in political science and history. I have taught courses at Portland State University and currently teach courses at the Army War College. And finally, I'm a community volunteer. I have served the people of Beaverton through the, let's see here, the Human Rights Advisory Commission, the Social Services Funding Committee, the Beaverton Severe Weather Shelter, the Beaverton School District Bond Accountability Committee, the Metro 2020 Get Moving Infrastructure Investment Team, and I currently serve on as a professional member with the Engineers Without Borders Community Engineering Corps, and a board member of Education First Scholarships, all of which serve traditionally underserved communities. And so that's kind of me. And I thank you for your time, and I think I might have a minute or two left for questions, and yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You do, you have at least 4 minutes, 3 minutes. So just,
Okay, well, let's go with John Ratliff.
Yes, you might ask your dad if he knows my dad or knew of my dad in the forestry department. He was the head of the the Corvallis District Office of State Forestry.
Mm-hmm.
Donald E. Ratliff.
Donald. I will certainly ask him. My father was a communications electrician, so his job was to go up to all the lookout towers and make sure the radios worked, and so they could spot the wildfires.
That was pretty important.
Yes, it's a fascinating job. I was able to accompany him when I was a kid.
Yeah, Dad was also a safety officer for the State Forestry Department.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'll certainly ask my dad if he knows him. Alexis Steele.
What specific inspired you to run for city council? It sounds like you've had quite a life of service, quite a lot of things that you've volunteered your time and effort into, but what was it about the city council that really caught your attention?
Well, I do consider myself a public servant. I'm definitely a politician. If I was a politician, I'd be a very poor politician. But I think that the impetus was the adoption of the new city charter. In the Army, I was a transformation chief. And part of that is creating organizations and understanding how interactions or interrelationships between different positions and different people, how that affects the performance of an organization. And I frankly just found that the adoption of a council manager form of government to be an intriguing possibility. My PhD is in political science, so I have this kind of sidebar interest in all things political. But it's a great opportunity. I think the charter, if implemented in a rational and practical way, I think can really set Beaverton up for an effective and efficient government. And do I have time for one more?
yeah.
Okay.
Susan?
Sunita?
Yeah. So what do you plan to accomplish in this role? You say that new charter is intriguing to you. what are you looking to do as your part as a counselor?
Yeah, so I have an engineering background. I think the role of the city manager is important. I see the city council as one of its primary roles is, other than setting policy for the city, is providing some oversight. And, you know, some of that oversight comes from all these boards and commissions, obviously. But I think having background in engineering, having a background in public safety, I did a little public safety sort of work in Iraq. Um, and so I understand how all these things come together. I taught a human rights class at Portland State. I understand how important policies are to how the city government serves the people. So I want to accomplish this kind of all-encompassing idea that, you know, government is so much more than just roads and bridges and things like this. It's a lot more, and it's all interconnected in my mind. And I think with my broad background, I think I can be a value-added person to the process. Yes.
Thank you, Jerome, for a wonderful background of yourself and fielding our questions for us. Really appreciate your being here.
Yes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So now I'd like to introduce Ashley Hartmeier-Prigg. Good morning, good afternoon, Ashley. We're glad you're here. And please feel free to speak to us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Good afternoon to you all as well. Thank you for having me. As Martha said, my name is Ashley Hartmeier-Prigg. I'm running for Beaverton City Council Seat 1. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. So when I was 5 years old, I started my first job as a janitor. I emptied trash, I vacuumed and cleaned toilets, and my siblings and I often would race to empty trash the fastest. This was our family job, and our parents took us because childcare was too expensive. And growing up, my dad painted houses and my mom worked at Giovanni's. And if my dad wasn't home and my mom needed to get to her shift, my aunt would come watch us at our apartment on Elm Boulevard. And there were points in my childhood when my parents were working 3 and 4 jobs, and it still wasn't enough to support their young family. And 30 years later, the stories of Beaverton families are still the same. Many people in our community are working hard, working multiple jobs, and they're struggling like my family did. But I really believe that it doesn't have to be this way, and that we can make sure that people can work and live in Beaverton, that people can afford to live in Beaverton who work here. So I'm currently the chair of the board of directors of the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District, and I'm running for city council because I'm committed to Beaverton. I'm committed to Beaverton's recovery from COVID-19, and I'm also committed to our small businesses. And I want the city to create a Shop Small initiative to help boost our local businesses through these uncertain economic times. And our recovery from COVID-19 is also a recovery for our community. At THPRD, we had to close the LC Stir Center in an effort to protect our most vulnerable community members. I look forward to reopening the Stir Center and reconnecting with our incredible senior community members. My husband and I actually got our first vaccine at lunchtime today, and that gives me a lot of hope that reconnecting with our community will happen sooner than later. I'm also committed to accessibility so that everyone, regardless of ability, can feel welcome and included in Beaverton. And I want Beaverton to work with our region so that everyone can safely get around. So I'm here today because I care so much about Beaverton, and I know that the advisory committees are a critical connection to our community. Your role is to ensure that City Council is informed and the needs and priorities of our community are told to the City Council. So I want to thank you for having me today and reserve time for your questions. I'm happy to share anything I can.
Thank you. John.
Yes, I was just with a couple that I hadn't visited for 8 or 10 months because of COVID. We're all vaccinated now, and so we got together today. and they're wondering when Elsie's store will be back functioning, because
Yeah.
it really depended upon the exercise room.
I know. And we don't have a date yet. I know that it's probably the last of our facilities to open just because of the vulnerable nature of the population that that community center serves. But I'll see if I can find out if we have a reopening date, John, and get it to your committee to give you an update on that.
Sunita.
So I had talked to Rebecca Miller from the Washington County, and she said that they have funds to help you guys open Elsie's store, because she was looking for us to advocate so that they can open it. So just so that you know, that county has funds if you guys need funding
Okay.
to help them open. Yeah.
That is always a welcome message. Thank you.
I know. Yeah.
I will.
Does a great job. So kudos to you guys, you know.
Thank you.
all do.
Yeah, it's such a special place.
It is. Yeah. So you said that you want to work towards making Beaverton where people don't have to work so much. How do you plan to do that? How do you plan?
Maybe not that they have to work, not that they don't have to work so much, right? But I think that we do need to advocate for living wage jobs in our area. We need to make sure that if people have a job in Beaverton, they can actually afford to live in Beaverton, right? And I think part of that is we need to continue working on building affordable rentals and affordable homes, like with a home ownership path. And so I think that it's kind of it's multiple ways, right? I can, as a city councilor, advocate to the state, right, to help ensure that worker protections are there, that livable wages are part of the norm in our community, and that the city is in the direct business of building affordable housing, right? And so to make sure that we continue that, but that also we bring all of our overlapping jurisdictions, like the county, like the Park District, like Metro, and we bring our resources together to have a bigger impact on that specific issue of affordable housing, right? Because I do think that there's kind of multiple pieces that go into making that possible.
So I have one more question if there's time. I'm running for the Beaverton school district, and as much as I'm reading, you know, like there's a lot of diversity, and affordability is a factor, you know, homeless youth, 36% population on free lunches or eligible for free lunches. How does the city council think about helping students or helping school districts?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a great opportunity for partnership, right? I think that even, you know, with the affordable housing example I gave, the same thing goes for the city and the school district to work together on maximizing our resources. And so whether that is hosting alternative places to pick up food, right, for families that are in need, or maybe the city can sponsor a clothing drive, right? There's so many different ways that we can really partner and maximize the way that we serve our community. You know, I think that the city's role in education is kind of minimal, right? The fact that the school district has its own elected body, right? It's its own district, has its own governance. And so that is where I think that the two bodies, the two councils, can work together, right? And see like what else can we be doing, because we serve so many of the same people. What would be the best way to reach our communities or families in need, right? When I think about you know, Jerome mentioned that he has volunteered at the severe weather shelter, right? We only have the one in the city. And right now, its long-term location is at risk because of actually an affordable housing project, right? And so we don't have family shelters in our city, right? So for the families that need additional supports and resources, I think that the city and the school district can work together on first making clear what is available to them, and then second, what's missing and how can we do more for that population.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Yes, thank you all for the questions.
Come join us. So we're going to move along, and I want to remember that I forgot to introduce Ramona. I think of Ramona as just part of our team, and here she is. So Ramona, please introduce yourself.
I'm Ramona Crocker, and I'm a volunteer with the Viva Village, which is a nonprofit organization designed to assist senior citizens in living independently in their own homes, but with social connections and with actual physical assistance where they need it in their homes and in their yards, or at least vetted professionals if this is something beyond what volunteers can do for them. It's an organization made up of both volunteers and paid membership. And I think it is adding a valuable service to residents in Beaverton and the surrounding area. So to address what Jerome was questioning earlier, there are organizations, you just have to be proactive in looking for them if you're getting to be a senior and you want some outlets and some outreach and a greater personal community within the city of Beaverton. So I'm here to learn what I can and to assist where I can with the mission of the Committee for Aging in Beaverton. Thank you.
Thank you. And Neil, welcome. Would you like to, one of our youthful members of our community, would you like to share what you're up to, Neil?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I apologize for coming a little bit late, but yeah, I'm really glad to be here and just hear about everyone's perspectives and yeah, like if some may not know already, like I run a service called PDX Concierge where we're delivering groceries and like food boxes from food banks to seniors, and that's been going well. We're continuing to deliver groceries for free to help people in need, and so that's what I've been doing with a lot of my free time. And yeah, that's just a quick summary about me.
Wonderful. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
And welcome back, Carley. Glad you're
Hi everyone. I'm Carley. I'm staff liaison to our guests. I apologize. I had a flat tire, so my apologies on being late to the meeting. But thank you both for speaking.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to do some updates because some of our members have gone out into the community. And I know Suzan needs to leave a bit early, so I'm going to call on her first so we get to hear from her adventure with AARP.
Martha, before we do that, it looks like Sophie has a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sophie.
It's okay. I just had a quick question for Ramona and a comment as well. I work with a lot of families locally and they would love to know about your services. There's a lot of people who don't know about Viva Village. So my first question is, how do you guys advertise? And second, can I have some brochures?
Yes, I would be glad to get some brochures to you. I'm not sure how we'd go about it. I suppose I could get them to Carley as a kind of a go-between. Could I, Carley?
Well, yeah, let's sort that out offline. I'll connect you two.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, Sophie. I'm glad I can't always see your hand. So this is interesting looking at keeping track of everybody. I can imagine what a teacher is going through these days online. So Suzan, it's your turn to share with us your adventures with AARP and what you discovered.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, my adventures were exciting and very disappointing to me. I did send a correspondence to AARP and I asked 3 questions. I asked them if they had information. I sent it to AARP Oregon and asked if they had information on Oregon cities that have programs that serve senior population, including nonprofits. The second question was, what other boards, agencies, nonprofits are doing or researching. And my third question to them was any programs in the works that Beaverton might be able to join to assist in any way, and how could we do that? AARP's response to me was, we have no information on that. We have national information. We don't have state information, would like to get it, and it would be wonderful if we could. They referred me to an organization called Nonprofit Oregon and said that they were sure that they would, that Nonprofit Oregon would have the information that I asked. So I asked the same three questions of a Jim White, who I believe he was the executive director. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure that was his title. And the person with that AARP Oregon was Joyce DeMonin, who also is, she's the outreach for the services. So Jim got back to me and said, what fabulous questions, and sure wish that he knew. And they had absolutely no information whatsoever to do with that. So he referred me. I had a wonderful trail through the nonprofits and organizations that serve seniors. He referred me to the Vision Action Network and said if anybody would have that information, they would. I have not heard back from Vision Action Network. So that basically is my report.
Well, thank you.
Lots of
answer.
emails, lots of phone calls, and unfortunately, it sounds like a service that is much, much needed.
Yep, so
And I'm wondering, sorry to interrupt, Martha.
No, go for it.
I'm wondering if the Oregon Healthcare Association would have that information.
Oh, they might. I'll make a notation to check with them.
Yeah, they work with seniors all the time. It's who we work with as providers in skilled nursing and assisted living. So they will most likely have the information.
Yeah, I purposely tried to stay away from a particular section, hoping to be broader.
Yeah.
But, anything would help right now. So I'll get in touch with them. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Susan. And I just saw a message, Ashley. It sounds like you have to drop off, and I just wanted to say thank you and we appreciate you coming, since I just saw your message there.
Yeah.
And Jerome,
Yeah.
you're welcome to stay if you want to stay to listen in. Otherwise, I just didn't want you to feel obligated. So I'll just say quick goodbye since you had to drop off.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I did some similar surveying to see if there were other municipalities that had committees such as Beaverton, and ran into a lot of the same kind of issues in terms of, I started with the area agencies on aging, and most often they were just weren't doing a whole lot of outreach other than servicing the clients that they had already been servicing. Also active on the governor's governor's committee on aging. I don't remember what it's called, but they're dealing with there's a loneliness committee, and there are in Clackamas County they're doing some outreach for loneliness, and I know on the Beaverton City. Our committee on aging, there's a loneliness hotline per se, but then was also kind of in effect came up empty-handed on other municipalities having committee on aging and any kinds of leads on activities. So,
Wow. Well, it's good to uncover all the rocks and find out what's actually out there for resources. Thank you, Paul. Now, Alexis, you did some work with the library. I'd love to hear what you have to report.
Yes, so for a quick recap, during our last meeting, we were again discussing how to get critical information out to the most vulnerable population during this very interesting time. And we had thought maybe that these people were reaching out to the city library because they have a call line that you can contact, ask any kind of question you want. They'll go and find the information for you. And so I contacted the Beaverton City Library. After a little bit of phone tag, I was able to get in touch with their community engagement manager, Victoria Campbell, incredibly lovely woman who told me that, yes, they are seeing quite an uptick in calls for these kind of vulnerable, isolated people who are just calling to reach out to somebody, just to have somebody to talk to. And so we had a discussion about kind of what resources we've heard about for them to pass along. And the resource of the Charge PDX line, I think it is, that was brought to us by Chris Oliveira, about putting these elderly people directly in contact with somebody who can help them through the whole process, potentially help them with rides and get them to their vaccine appointment. And she looked at their website. She was very excited because she had never seen this before. And she had been directing people to the 411 number, which they're doing amazing work as well, but they can't really take somebody through the whole process. And so she is now telling all of her people who man the Beaverton City Library call line to pass on this information to anybody who asks or anybody who might be interested in, you know, help through the whole vaccination process. So we were able to kind of like link those two connection points. And Victoria from the Beaverton City Library is very, very excited. She was very excited about this group reaching out to her and kind of using the library as a resource. So it was a really excellent experience. And if nothing else, we have a little bit more information going out to the people who need it.
Yeah, thank you. That is awesome. Okay, Bev, you were on your trailhead too. What did you discover this past month?
My objective was to find out what other communities, cities, and identify how many had committees, advisory groups, whatever, for the aging. And that was very enlightening. And first off, I think we in Beaverton should be extremely proud of our city in having a committee, because very, very, very few cities have it. And I was unable to reach a lot of them because they are virtually shut down. So getting to the right person was a challenge. So my intent is to continue this once we get further past the peak of the pandemic and continue the search for more information. I did have a great conversation with the city person in Portland. They did have a committee, but they did disband it within the last year. And now they look to the county, Multnomah, to provide any services or contact information. I contacted Hillsborough, the same thing occurred with them. They do not have a committee. The person who who I contacted actually referred me to someone else, and about 3 people later, I did get to a person and said, no, we rely on Washington County for any information. I tried to contact Lake Oswego, Tigard, the surrounding, and then I started out of state, and I did get a hold of someone in Utah, in Salt Lake, and they said, you have a committee for that? And I said, yes. And she said, no, we don't. And so we got in a sideline conversation, of course, but very interesting. So I came away with 2 thoughts. Number one, Beaverton is unusual in having an advisory committee for the aging. Second, that I would continue to seek out information to find out who does and what is the structure of that, because that was the intent, is to find out what was their function and then be able to bring that back for our own planning committee. So that's what I found out, that identifying, contacting, reaching people is a challenge at this time. And secondly, those that I did reach, no. And I did reach one in Southern Oregon because I was curious, because I spent a lot of my time down there years ago, and I could not identify anybody. So I will continue my search.
Well, Bev, you are our Johnny Appleseed. You are planting seeds all over for people to think about committees on aging.
Well, hopefully. Oh, I did contact, finally I thought, okay, wait a minute, I'm going to Portland State. And so I did contact I can't remember the department now. I have it all down. It's in my computer because it's not a finished project. And I did contact them. And of course, they were all off. All of the professors of the heads of the department were not actively utilizing their offices. And so he said, I will send out an email asking if anybody has any information related to this. I didn't hear back from anybody.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
What a little pioneer you are. I love it. And John, you were going to talk to the bicycle committee.
Yeah, I was not successful in talking to the bicycle committee. So
Okay.
I'll try that for next time.
No worries.
I did sit in on an older adult focus group last week.
Oh, yes. Oh, please share.
And that was on suicide prevention, it turns out. And they're interested statewide, they're interested in this focus group focusing on suicide prevention for older adults. And there wasn't, I told them I didn't have much expertise in that mine was in occupational safety and health and that sort of thing. But that apparently there is an adult suicide intervention and prevention plan that they're trying to put together on a statewide basis.
Awesome.
And so anybody who has any information on that, if you could shoot it to me, I would appreciate it.
Wonderful.
I spent noon hour here with some good friends for the first time in months and months because of the COVID situation, but we're all vaccinated now and past our 2 weeks. So we got together for lunch and I talked to them about this, and Ron, the older gentleman I was with, said the first thing you should do is get guns out of the house, have them turned in for destruction. So that's a thought.
Yeah.
John, was the focus group through Washington County? Was it a Washington County Health Department related focus group?
I don't think so. I think it's statewide.
I thought it was through Dave's, the disability with Kara.
Clackamas County has a program out of Oregon City, and I'll get you that information, John.
Okay.
It's went to an in-service on it about 1.5 years ago, and I'll pull it up. And
apparently Washington County also has a suicide coordinator, suicide prevention coordinator.
Yeah.
We hosted a educational forum on this topic a few years ago. I think it might have been maybe 3 years ago that the BCOA hosted a topic, an educational thing with speakers from Washington County that focused on this. So I think we could pull up some of those contacts and information if you're interested, John.
Sure. I think, looking at my notes, I think this actually comes from the Oregon Health Authority. And they're trying to put together a suicide prevention plan, and they have 7 focus groups. One of the other ones is focus on military personnel that have been in the military and are now in our communities.
Cool. Thank you, John.
John, I've got a question. This is Jamie. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, go for it.
Was there any data shared related to the prevalence of suicidality with older adults?
No. Okay. I asked about that, and I don't know that they have the data. I'm not sure if it's being tracked that way.
Okay.
I've got a website that I'll send to you to track that stuff.
Okay.
It's got unusual letters to it. Wow, I'm so impressed with all the work everybody did. It feels like we're just out there finding out what's needed and putting our good skills to work and being proactive. I think it's really important. So I wanted to bring everybody up to date on what's happening. Yes, Sunita. You're on mute, hon.
So I also had said that I would talk to Dabs.
Thank you. I knew I forgot.
I was fortunate because I got in connection with Rebecca Miller, and she was very helpful. She provided an area plan, and I would put that in the agenda so that people can see. But the top 5 services that they found was important to the community and they provide is accessibility to transportation, veteran benefits, managing chronic illness or pain, getting enough food to eat, and legal services. And these are services that are provided by DAVS, and they do have some fundings during this COVID time to help. She was talking about actually Alexis Steele to help them reopen it because I asked her how we both can work, BCOA and DAVS can work to do something. And they said if we wanted to advocate something like that, they would be willing to help with us and work with us. And she would be interested in coming and talking with us, our group, if we ever need her. So Carley, if you ever want to call her, she's interested in coming and talking. So it was a good connection. She's very helpful. She actually helped me with another friend of mine who lives in Clackamas County and is looking after a 95-year-old mom. And she was able to give resources out to him. He was so happy. So very good person to connect with.
Thank you, Sunita.
Yeah.
Okay, and anybody else that I missed?
Can I ask a question for Sunita?
Sure.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
What group is this?
DAVS, Washington County Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services Department. She's the supervisor. Her name is Rebecca Miller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Ramona.
I was going to suggest, with all of this extensive research that various people on the committee have done, that we need to capture and retain these names and names of committees and contact information, at least to have some sense of what and where there's possible help, or where there's not help. Even that's informative too, to retain for our committee. At some point, who knows when you might want to work with some of these groups in order to spread the information about some particular issue or something, or to possibly in the future obtain information. A network, in other words. We need to have maintain a working network of groups that have the same issues or interests, focus.
Yes, excellent. Bev.
I would really second that and would propose that we consider as one of our projects is developing a schematic that we can link all of this together on, I'm not sure what, that would need to be further investigated. What is the best way to do that so that we can clearly look at something and say, oh yeah, this does that, and put it all together. I would think that would be an extremely beneficial product to have for ourselves primarily, but even for the county, and to share with any other organizations.
Yeah. Yeah, Sunita.
So if anyone would like any information that you did not talk about today, that you would want to see it in the agenda, please send it to me or Carley, and we can put it in the agenda with like the contact information for the person or the name of the organization that you talk to and what your experience was with them. That would be helpful.
You're talking about the minutes. The minutes.
Yes.
Is that what the minutes? Yeah.
I said agenda. Sorry, I meant minutes. You know.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking you were talking about adding it to the minutes so that it's documented there. And then also, I would say that if there was, you were talking about Rebecca Miller, and if folks are interested in having that as a guest speaker, just as a reminder for the new members that typically the staff liaison, usually in collaboration with the chair, like identifies guest speakers to come, but also like if there's folks from the committee that you're saying we would like to hear from that person, then you can send them my way. We can get them on the agenda as a guest speaker. So if there's interest in hearing more from her with that program, then we can have her come as a guest. So in case anybody forgot about that, we can certainly about the process.
Yeah, or any other people that you think would be really helpful for us to hear about. So I want to bring you up to date on what's happening with Viva Village. Mary Ellen is still working very hard to have an International Day of the Older Adult on October 1st. She's written letters to Bonamici and to Beatty, and she still hasn't heard from them. So she's gonna keep at it. So if anybody else wants to join her in making this happen, she would love to have some co-workers with her. Age Cafe will continue through the summer, and we meet every other Friday. So for April, we meet on the 16th and the 30th from 11 to 12, and it's all on Zoom. And then in May, we will meet on the 14th and the 20th, again, 11 to 12. And anyone is welcome. And if you want to go and don't know how to get on, just shoot me an email, and I can forward the the Zoom Connect. Death Cafe will be continuing with 2 meetings a month, probably until the end of May, and then they're going to go to 1 meeting a month. So finishing the month of April, our next Death Cafe is on Saturday, the 24th of April. And then we have 2 meetings in May, one on a Friday on May 7th, and one on a Saturday on May 22nd. Those meetings also go from 11 to 12. And again, if you need a Zoom Connect, you can email me and I can get that Zoom Connect to you. It's open to anyone. We even have people from Iowa and Illinois and Southern California, Northern California joining us. So it's become quite national. It's kind of exciting. And it's a time where we meet together to talk about aging, anything about aging. Topics we've covered are perspectives on aging. What do you do when you have to move? What are some hobbies? How do you connect with nature? And the things, Death Cafe used to be wide open. You just talk about anything, but now we're having prompts. And we've been talking about rituals around death, perceptions about memories you have had about death, and visions of what you'd like to happen for you. So anyway, they're vibrant, wonderful discussions. We meet in small groups, and we also keep a resource of books and agencies to work with. So anything else that's good for the order? Yes, John.
Yes, I was over at THPRD at their main pool here at Tualatin Hills Aquatic Center. I saw that they were open, and so I went in to go swim, and what I found out is that it's by appointment only, but it is open. Mm-hmm. And the appointments fill up very quickly. They have 1 person per lane swimming, but they are open, and you've got to go in and about a week early, I think, and make an appointment to go in to go swim. And they have certain hours to do that.
Oh, good. And they have an indoor track, and then you also have to make an appointment to go walk or run there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The trail system is open and being used by a lot of people.
Yes. Very busy out there.
Including us.
Okay. So I think I hear a couple of projects. One project is to put together the network of services, and I guess I call them services, nonprofits and so forth. And to keep on researching people who want to keep on doing what they're doing. So I'd like you to keep in mind, what are some of the projects that you would like to get engaged with? Because it takes very little effort on one person's part to make something really big happen. And we've learned a lot about what's happening in our community, and we should be really proud of what happens in Beaverton. So I'd like you to put that in your thinking cap and figure out what direction do you want to go in as a member of the BCOA. And now we're going to hear from Allison, our city council member who joins us.
Hello. Hi, everybody. That was fantastic. I can't believe how much progress has been made across so many items covered in the last meeting. You go to these meetings and oftentimes people are like, oh yeah, I said I was going to make that call and I didn't do it, but everyone is just on top of things. And that was really useful information. So I'm happy I got to hear it. There are so many things going on right now. I'm like, what should I include? How do I keep my time here short? So I have a list of things in no particular order I'm going to go through. The city council meetings have been packed lately. We start typically at 6:30, sometimes 5:30, and they're regularly going until 10, sometimes later at night. A couple of them with no break. It just went on. It kept going on and on and on. So luckily we're getting at least a 5-minute break incorporated in at this point. And everyone's got kind of scratchy voices and bleary eyes by the end of the meetings, but we're tackling a lot of topics. It's not always going to be like that, but given the confluence of just several different things related to the pandemic, to the change in government and the interview processes for the city manager position, several things happening at the federal level, which require our attention on monies that might be coming our way, to talks around public safety, and the list goes on and on. So there's just a lot for us to dig into. A few things that I'll mention. Oh, not to mention the projects on 5th Street, which you may or may not have heard have been garnering a lot of attention and generating a lot of email to us. And there's 2 projects that are completely not related to each other. They just happen to be within a block of each other. So it's putting this magnifying lens on 5th Street directly across from the park and the library. So I'll give you a brief update on those as well. So a couple things for tonight, if you are interested in tuning in to the council meeting. We've got Lynn Peterson, who's president of Metro, who's going to be coming in to give us an update on the 2021 priorities for Metro, which will be a look at the entire region, the Portland metropolitan region, but it will include Beaverton, and there's implications for what that could mean for us. You know, they passed all sorts of bonds in the last several years that we have become a recipient of some of those funds, including affordable housing. The latest T2020 bond for transportation did not pass, but I'm sure they're already starting to think of ways that they could reset that one and get some funds in place for all of the different transportation projects that are needed throughout the region, including in and around Beaverton. So that'll be really fascinating to hear what they're starting to think about. Also covered tonight and this one's really interesting. I bring it up just because I personally got really excited about it. There is a new waste hauler who would like to move into the city of Beaverton, not provided as a franchise for every resident in town, but as a subscription-based service to start, I think, because they're still fairly new, but it's for hard to recycle materials. So the stuff that you wish you could put into your recycling bin, but you just can't, whether that be plastic bags, Ziploc bags, bread bags, those types of plastics, to batteries, to books, to clothing, things that you don't need anymore, but it just seems like, ooh, I either shouldn't put this into my garbage or I really wish I didn't have to. But because it would be different than a franchisee system, that presents some challenges to us because we don't currently have language written into our code to allow for that. And frankly, the waste haulers that have franchise agreements with the city are looking at it, you know, a little out of the corner of their eyes, and they're not thrilled with the idea of this going down the way that it's currently proposed. So we're going to talk our way through that. But at the end of the day, I hope that we can get this kind of service into Beaverton. And and the last part is they would do seasonal types of pickups, like around the holidays when there's a heavy amount of like old Christmas lights that don't work anymore, or times of year when they're like, okay, everybody grab all those books that you don't want. So it's not that they're just going to recycle them into something else or recycle them away. It's they do upcycling, they find different routes for these materials, and those that can vary depending on the type of item that they're offering for. So we'll have updates on that hopefully after the next meeting. A couple of transportation related things. There is a project happening on Western Avenue that I just want to draw your attention to, because there's going to be some pretty major construction happening on it over the next year, I guess, or so. It hasn't officially started yet, but it's pretty imminent. And it starts at Allen and it goes all the way to Beaverton Hillsdale. So basically from where Platt Electric is all the way to the Kaiser Permanente Hospital that's over by the proposed In-N-Out near that location. That street is half commercial and half in light industrial. And right now it's a 2-lane road. There's really no infrastructure in place for to make it a very bike ped friendly location. And it is a potential really interesting connector between some of the trails that we've got, the Fano Creek Trail, as well as trails that are up and around Olison Road, and then into more the commercial district. So they're doing what they call a road diet, which is removing a lane and creating a turn lane and adding in sidewalks, bike facilities, and some other safety improvements that will just make it much easier for people that are traversing that street that aren't in a car to do so safely and in a more enjoyable manner. So we're going to be approving one of the sub-consultant agreements for that tonight. So we're getting the team in place, and that will be starting soon. The last transportation thing is, if you tuned into the city council meeting last week, this is pretty exciting stuff. ODOT is finally, after 30 years, I can't remember how long this has been going on, going to start truly thinking about how to tackle the congestion issues on the 217. Yeah, I know, Martha. So they're what they're proposing and looking at the alignments right now. I mean, they were presenting it to us for our information. The city of Beaverton and others that are going to be affected by this, the municipalities around this facility. We can weigh in, we can give our opinions, but this is an ODOT project. So we do have some folks in the community that they don't want to see any kind of increased capacity on roadways. They want to see efforts put towards other modes of transportation and transit and things like that. I'm happy to dig into that with anyone who has concerns about this project. But for the project itself, it will add auxiliary lanes that will start, I believe, at Canyon and go all the way to the 99. Because in that stretch, we have a lot of on-ramps and off-ramps that create a lot of merging that just doesn't work well with 2 lanes. You have to have a 3rd lane to allow for that zipper effect to really come into play to let people on and off. And what we have now are just absolute bottlenecks, not only on the 217, but also on the on-ramps, which can lead to congestion in the intersections. And those are some of our highest crash intersections within the city. So this is for safety, it's to relieve congestion, and they're also going to be doing other improvements as well. So for instance, on the Denny overpass, they're going to be putting in a bike lane, which will allow for folks to get to the Fano Creek Trail in a more just a safer manner, and also like marked, so you know, oh yeah, here I can use this lane. And there's going to be a widened sidewalk as well to make it easier for pedestrians to walk past each other and really utilize that overpass in a way that they just haven't in the past. So there's a lot coming on that one. So prepare for construction. I'm sure it's going to be a nightmare when they really get going on the 217 project. And we're going to, I mean, it's already a nightmare at times. So we'll have to deal with that. But on the other side of it, hopefully it's going to provide some relief to what we've, I'm sure, all dealt with at one time or another. And I apologize for these groans that you hear in the background. That's my dog who's trying to get my attention. And then the last thing I'll hit, and then I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them, is the projects on 5th Street. So we've got what was until recently called Project C, which is the Senior Affordable Housing Project that's directly across from the library. This one is using affordable housing dollars from the bond money from Metro. It's the 4th project to put in affordable housing, and it is expressly focused on creating housing for seniors. They looked at all sorts of sites for it, and the only site that truly checked all the boxes in terms of walkability, access to amenities, and access to transit was this site. It is unfortunately already occupied with a building, which is the community center, and that community center has a lot of things within it that are useful resources, and in some cases the only place for the resource for our residents, including the emergency weather shelter, severe weather shelter, community meeting space, and we do not have a lot of free community meeting space in the city. And then other homeless service providers also utilize that space to provide access to services. And there's a community garden that's been there for 20 years that is beloved. People don't want to see these things go. And it's honestly, it's heartache and heartburn to hear from community members about this project. I have come in way past midstream on it, having been elected and just started serving in January. A lot of this was already going before I got on, so I've been playing catch up big time just to make sure I'm speaking intelligently to it and asking questions that are reflective of what I would want just as a resident, but also what residents who are reaching out to me are curious about. So if you have any comments on that project, I would love to hear them, especially from this committee. On the second project is the Book Corner, which is a block away from it. If you're not familiar with the site, it's directly across the street from the park, looking across 5th Street. And that one is, if we were approached by a developer, I say we being the city, this all happened before I joined, that wanted to purchase the lot and couple it with the lot next to it and turn it into a mixed-use multifamily apartment complex with 80 units in it, which would bring a lot of housing to the area, which is something that was captured in the last Beaverton community vision plan as being something that they wanted. They want more density within the urban center, and they want to create just more walkability in that area and create more of a center of gravity. Unfortunately, when you start doing that, it's really hard at first because what goes in looks very different. And what goes in is taking a footprint over that sometimes has things on it that you don't want to see go. And one of those is the trees that are on the site. There's some very old, very big, very beautiful trees, and people grow extremely attached to them. I do as well. Not to mention the canopy and the part that those trees play in filtering pollution out of the air and helping with heat, the heat index as well. And so there's concerns about the look of the place and what it's going to do to parking. There's concerns about removal of the trees. And again, a lot of heartache and heartburn in what I'm hearing. And I am listening. I'm doing as much research as I can. And I'm also figuring out what can be done at this point, given that I'm coming in late into the process. So I want to hear from you on this. I am losing sleep a little bit on these two projects because I know they're both going to produce things that are greatly needed, and they come with some pretty big costs that are hard to quantify in some cases. And And so that's the really hard part of doing this work. And it has to be informed by how you feel about it. So those are the updates I have. Are there any questions or just feedback? John, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I wanted to comment on the Denny overpass and the bike lanes. This has been a concern of the Bicycle Advisory Committee for probably at least 6 years, trying to get that accomplished. And this is, I'm sure the Bicycle Advisory Committee, which I'm not on presently, but was on, and I was vice chair, I think, at one point, was very concerned and will be very happy to hear about that.
Yeah, and Mark Sansucci, Councillor Sansucci, is an avid regular cycler. I used to be a commuter. I'm more recreational now, but he's really traveled that route a lot, and he had something to say to ODOT about their design of it and some suggestions on how they can make it even better. So there is definitely an advocate. Well, all of us are for bike and improved bike ped mobility throughout the city. But yeah, Councillor Sansucci, if you ever want to have anybody relay any information, I'd be happy to do it, but I know he would especially be happy to do it for the bicycle advice.
Awesome.
Yeah, the big thing was the connection between that and the trail system with THPRD.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Sophie, I think I saw your hand up.
Yes, and I'll figure out how to take my hand down. There we go. So I heard little whispers of the senior housing coming in. And I can just say in my career, I was a care manager. And what happens is people who live in these type of places end up needing care. And so I'm wondering if there's any thought behind, because I'm assuming, is this like a Medicaid type building? Or would these seniors be paying for this? I'm curious about that.
It'll be pay. And I believe it's going to be for 55 and over independent, healthy adults that are looking to downsize out of the homes that they raise their families in, or just to have a bigger footprint than they need, that maybe aren't ADA accessible and just don't work for them anymore, have stairs or other facilities that are dangerous as you get older. And so this building is going to be designed that's going to be that missing middle for seniors. Mm-hmm. So the step before needing assisted living help, but when you're done with the single family home, that's just one example of the type of person that would need it. But it's I think it speaks to, and I've heard this anecdotally for years here, of folks that I know that have gotten to that age where both if they're married, they've retired, their partner's retired, the house is too much, they want to go, and there's nowhere in Beaverton that is available. And the stock that is available is it's either taken, it's out of their price range, there's not enough of it. And this is anecdotally what I hear over and over, we got to move to King City. 4 times.
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious, and I know we're getting close to time here, Sophia. I'd love to talk to you more about it too.
Yes, I have some comments because there have been so many new buildings going in. There's actually a surplus of buildings going in, and I was working at a brand new building. We couldn't fill the building. There were so many rooms available. So I'm really confused as to why we're opening another building. That's just my thought. And I work in senior housing right now. So that's my career. Right now I'm in assisted living and memory care, but we actually had to shift things in many of the buildings locally. If you do much research, there's, I think, 35 buildings within the Beaverton radius. That's assisted living, independent living, and memory care. So maybe it is that they're too expensive. So that's why I was wondering if there's Medicaid, because I get calls every day for Medicaid and there's no beds, no Medicaid beds. So that's what I was hoping, but it doesn't sound like that.
This is expressly, I believe it's 100%. I'll have to check the numbers on that, but it is designated affordable. So it's going to be.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is the differentiator between this and other types. It's
Okay.
yes. And there's also, they're working on making them more findable on the website. I actually reached out to the city about this because the materials, the FAQ, the PowerPoint presentation stuff that were shared at a recent town hall are posted on the website and I can't find them. So they're working on making them more findable. But I can pass along those decks, the PowerPoint deck and more information on this to this group. And it's got a lot of really good information on both projects, but specifically on the senior affordable housing center.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilwoman Allison. That was very informative. There's a lot going on. And thank you for
thanks for
participating in it. Yeah. Okay, we're going to hear from Carley next, our wonderful city liaison.
Thanks. All right, let me pull this up here. So some of the things have been mentioned, but I'll just add the things that have not. We did, let's see here. Okay, we just heard about what's happening on 5th Street, so that's covered there. The city manager recruitment is underway. There is a community survey that's still live through mid-April to get public input on initiatives and quality, desired qualities for the hiring process. And this, over the summertime, is when there will be opportunities to meet the finalists. And I am reading something off of a screen, so I'm not looking at faces while I'm talking. So just FYI, I'll come right back to questions. The shelter that we talked about, the homeless shelter, the cold weather shelter, has been extended through May. And the Just Compassion of East Washington County is continuing to operate the shelter. And then let's see here. This is the only site in the county that's maintaining operations in a group setting in staff, and has been this whole time. And let's see, it has the capacity to serve 160 adults aged 18 and older. Sorry, let's see, the shelter opened for its 5th season in November 2020, and it expanded operations to include 24-hour, 7 days a week services for up to 30 adults at a time on an enrollment basis. And then there they're provided with meals, showers, access to resources, and referral to social services. So, and then they'll include the link here about how to connect with that if you hear of anybody that's looking for how to connect to those services. Let's see here. The Spring Voters Forum is coming up, and this is a really good opportunity. If you haven't attended Spring Voters Forum before, I recommend those. Are, in general, voter forums can be really a great way to get to learn more. And that is coming up. It's going to be hosted April 29th at 6:30 p.m. And there's a link here on how to view that in English or in Spanish. And then this is an opportunity where attendees are encouraged to ask the questions to candidates. And you ask the questions in advance, and then they'll be potentially featured during the event. And so if you want to submit a question, April 26th will be the deadline to submit a question. So those are some of the updates that I have for you in terms of things that are going on in the city. And yeah, that's what I have for you. I don't know if there's any questions about those particular pieces or other things that are going on in the city that people were wondering about.
I just want to add that the Voters Forum is so well run. The answers are pithy. Everybody has the same amount of time to answer, and they move along. So people can't drone out. It's a well run event. I attend them all. They're so good. So anything else? Yes, Bev.
Hi, do we have an updated directory of our membership?
Of our committee?
Yes.
Yes. Well, it's
and
did I miss it? No, I can send out an updated version. Martha, because I haven't done that yet, but I can do that. I can send an updated one to you. Did you make an announcement at the beginning, Martha?
Of taking
about our last change that we had with our membership. I wasn't. Oh, it was about Laura.
Yeah, well, Laura is, I was leaving that for you to share because you
Okay.
know more about it than I do.
Oh, okay. I just, a brief announcement, since you brought up membership. I wasn't sure if Martha shared at the beginning, but Laura is having some health problems, and she has to step away right now. So unrelated to the committee itself, but she's needing to step away and focus on her health. So she's still working full time and taking care of her brother. So she asked me if I would just share that with you as a committee, that she's going to have to step away right now from the committee work to focus on her health. So we wish her well as a committee, and if you want to send her a message wishing her well, you can certainly email her and let her know.
Yeah.
But yes, that's the committee announcement. So I will send out an updated roster for you all to have.
Wonderful.
So
yes, Bev.
Will we have Lou's position filled by one of our backups, or what is the process for that?
The process is, well, one, we'll probably not do a midterm appointment. I'm not sure if we still can do a midterm appointment for new recruitment. Right now, both of our alternates are not non-residents, so they wouldn't shift into the permanent board member or the 3-year term, but those spots are, of both Lou and Laura's spots are now open. But if we would either do something midterm or kind of traditionally on this committee have just waited for the annual recruitment rather than trying to do it halfway through the year. So I might just talk to the other staff to decide what's the most, whether or not we try to bring people on halfway through, or we just wait until next year's recruitment, which would be later in the fall. I think at this point, we're just probably waiting until the fall recruitment starts to then bring people on the way we would every year.
Yeah, and to see whether we're maybe meeting in person. Who knows?
Yeah. We might, yes. Yeah, the latest update I've heard is that we will hear more information at the beginning of June on the timeline. So we're going to be getting our latest update would be, we'll give you a greater update at the beginning of June, but we're looking at summertime at the earliest in terms of meeting. Although that's on the radar for conversations for all of the city boards about what that kind of safely meeting in person in some sort of social distance fashion could look like, and that sort of thing. So it's on people's radar for the future.
Yeah. Oh, anticipation, and we're still living in uncertainty, but at least it's opening up a little bit every day. So I invite you all to think about all the projects we've, some of our members have gone out and researched and discovered. Where would you like to put some of your time to do service? And if when the minutes come out, if there's somebody who did research in a specific area that you're interested in, you can certainly go get in touch with that person. And another project I want to throw out is, how can we connect with the other committees? So the one on transportation, the visioning committee, the bicycle committee, the youth advisory committee. I mean, I'm not naming them all, but housing, to let them know who we are and what we do. And it really helps to be networked. So if anybody's interested in pursuing that, I know I am. I would gladly set up a way to figure that out with each other. And Sophie, you had your hand raised. Oh no, okay. So time to close out. John.
Oh, I was just thinking that I could go back to the Bicycle Advisory Committee and say hello.
Good. You're on. I'm writing your name down, John Bicycle Committee. Okay. So thank you for a fabulous meeting. I am so excited with all the effort members have put in and all the information we've gleaned and the exciting things that are happening. And, you know, I've just realized that change takes time. And I think that we take one step forward, we may take 2 steps back, but we're moving ahead. And I think we're finally figuring out what it is we need to do to be purposeful in our committee. So I want to thank everybody for your effort, your time, your discoveries. And it sounds like everybody had a really good time. So that's really important. I'd like to make a move to close the meeting. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Bev.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So enjoy your week. Please be in touch with people who you feel like you would like to connect with on a project, and enjoy this beautiful weather. So